Hello everyone, my name is Tay from Yu-Gi-Oh! Fantasy and welcome to Rewriting Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters.
Dueling monsters?
Duel monsters, you Nimrod!
I've wanted to take on this project for a long time now and I'm really excited to be bringing it to you. Before I begin though, there are a few things I need to go over. Most importantly, that this is not a way of me saying I could have written the show better than the original, but this is me changing, removing or adding things that I would have personally preferred and maybe you as well. The goal of this rewrite is to focus on potentially darker tones that 4Kids couldn't dare to touch upon in their dubbings, give characters so much more developed arcs and maybe even some romantic aspects as well to give more depth to stories. I also want to say that this episode will be shorter than the ones I'm hoping to bring in the future, as this episode is more to gauge interest and test the waters before committing to what will likely turn into a year-long project, and even more if I follow up by doing GX and 5Ds and the like. So without further ado, let's get into the very beginning. The entire show will start with a quick prologue featuring Solomon Moto and Arthur Hawkins doing some work in Egypt when they stumble across the box of the Millennium Puzzle. Solomon will question, "Is this what I think it is?" as Arthur responds, "The ancient Millennium Puzzle," as we go into that beautiful and nostalgic intro.
It's time to duel!
We open as normal with Yugi and Joey dueling and then meeting the main cast for the first time. Yugi mentions to Joey that his grandpa owns a game shop and could even show Joey a super rare card. Joey gets overexcited, but when it's mentioned the show shifts to a generic looking school kid who's eavesdropping on their conversation. This is specifically not Kaiba and just some guy who knows what Kaiba's looking for. This is only because I don't think there's ever even another scene of Kaiba at school, so why would you set that up that he attends in the first place? We then meet the gang at the card shop and see the man from the intro scene. Clearly he's gotten much older, but he's introduced to be Yugi's grandpa, Solomon Moto. Whilst the group are being shown the card, in barges the new first appearance for Seto Kaiba. He acts like a jerk and mocks Joey and Yugi for being so inferior to him. He offers hundreds of rare cards for Grandpa's blue eyes, followed by money. Both offers are rejected and Kaiba storms out furious. But not deterred. When he leaves, we see a scene of him on the phone, telling his employees there's something he'd like them to pick up for him from the game shop. Following this, we get a scene from later on that evening. 3 men enter the game shop telling Solomon that he has to come see Seto Kaiba right away. Solomon downright refuses, saying Kaiba will never get his Blue Eyes White Dragon. But we cut to a shot from outside the game shop, and we hear some sound effects of a small fight, or in this case, a bit of a beatdown. The next day, the gang enters the game shop. They're looking for Grandpa, but he's nowhere to be seen, and then the phone rings. Yugi picks it up, and it's Kaiba telling him to come collect his grandpa, as he's going to need some help. Yugi, Joey, Tristan and Taya rush to Kaiba's office, which I assume is just Kaiba Corp before they had a name for Kaiba Corp. When they enter, they see Grandpa laying on the lobby floor. Joey and Tristan are ready to brawl, but Kaiba has 3 henchmen either side of him. Kaiba tells Yugi that he's beaten Grandpa for his rarest card, proceeding to rip the card in half right in front of them. The gang are in disgust, but Grandpa hands his deck to Yugi and tells him to teach Kaiba some respect. Tristan and Taya rush Grandpa to the hospital as Joey stays to support Yugi in his duel. But not before the super important moment where Taya draws a smiley face on the hand with a Sharpie to symbolise friendship.
Playtime is over, Kaiba!
Yugi does his first ever transformation into the Pharaoh, and I just want to note that, at least for the rewrite, Yugi's transformation in height and voice is simply for the viewer's benefit and not what the characters see. This way the characters don't seem like complete idiots, other than Joey and Tristan, where that is basically unavoidable. During the first attack in the duel, Kaiba explains that whilst in normal duels they'd be completely holographic, in this duel he's turned off the damage limitations. He has a special function for cases like this which inflict real damage to players and the surrounding area, because Kaiba is a psychopath.
What? Monsters? Real monsters?
The duel goes on as normal because even though it's incredibly scuffed, it is iconic, and whilst I don't want to let too many stupid things happen in duels, it will be hard to change all of them in the first season because the anime came out before the game even had rules. During the duel, also, Yugi doesn't call the right leg of Exodia useless. We simply see the flashback of Grandpa explaining Exodia to Yugi earlier than we did in the original, and he recognises it, simply saying, "Grandpa really entrusts me with these cards? Thank you, Grandpa." From here, the duel goes the same way, especially Yugi flexing on Kaiba with Exodia like the original because it's cold as fuck, and then Mind Crush because it's also cold as fuck. Once Yugi's victorious, Joey's gassed that Yugi beat Kaiba, but utters to himself something like, "Yugi's so good. I wish I was as good as him." Just to plant some minor seeds of doubt and jealousy which will be heavily played upon later down the line. A week or so later, we see the gang at the school again. Taya beats Joey as usual in a duel. Yugi checks the deck and berates him because it's funny, and later convinces Grandpa to train him. But we actually see like a Rocky training montage, ending with Joey being gifted the Flame Swordsman, which I'm headcanoning to be a normal monster because it being a fusion in the anime enrages me. I know it's a fusion in real life, but if he's not going to play it like one, don't make it one. Following this, Yugi, Joey, Tristan and Taya are sat hanging out in Yugi's living room when Solomon enters the room. He tells Yugi he's received a package from Industrial Illusions, which they're all shocked about, but has no time to open it now as the Regional Championship Finals are about to start. During the scene featuring the Championship Finals between Rex and Weevil, there's a mention that frontrunner Seto Kaiba has still not been seen or heard from and never turned up to the tournament. When Weevil wins the tournament, Pegasus hands him an envelope and it's revealed that it's an invite to Duelist Kingdom tournament, and as a reward he's been given insider knowledge as to some of the Duelist Kingdom specific rules, just because I think it's a bit stupid that Weevil later on claims to have stolen them, because how would he even do that? Following the duel, the group finally gather around to have a look at the package that was sent to Yugi. Solomon notes that Industrial Illusions is owned by the creator of Duel Monsters and the man that has just handed the trophy to Weevil, Maximilian Pegasus. Once they open it, they find a glove and 2 little stars accompanied by a videotape, which always reminds me of how old Yu-Gi-Oh is and therefore how old I'm getting. Yugi puts the VHS tape into the player and Pegasus is on the screen, but before long we find out this is more than just an innocent tape, as the group are all frozen in time and Pegasus takes Yugi on a trip to the Shadow Realm. Pegasus explains his challenge of a duel on a 15-minute time limit, where the winner will be the person with the most life points at the end of the timer. The duel gets underway and it's quickly revealed that Pegasus is using what he claims to be magic to see Yugi's cards. The duel goes on as normal and ends with Yugi unable to make his attack before the timer goes off. Time goes back to normal and Yugi goes back to where he was, but his grandpa drops to the floor, cold and lifeless. The gang are confused as to what happened, but notice Yugi punching the screen and crying, begging for his grandpa back. A few days later, Yugi is seen on the roof of his school building, giving his inner monologue on how ridiculous this whole situation is, and how he's so unsure as to how he even got there. Following this, we cut to Joey watching a videotape, which if I was him, I'd be more concerned about considering he literally just watched Yugi's grandpa die the last time a tape they were unsure of was played. But nevertheless, it's from his sister Serenity, who is telling him how she's worried about losing her vision and not being able to see him again. But this time, without the line, "I'm sending you this so you don't forget your sister's face," because Serenity is in fact the one going blind, not Joey. After this, we see Yugi getting his invitation to Duelist Kingdom. Taya worries and tells Yugi it could be dangerous, but Yugi feels like he has to go, as it's the only lead he has on saving his grandpa. Tristan then notices the cash prize. Yugi tries to claim, "Who cares about the money?" to which Joey shakes off and gets extremely excited, even though the others won't know why yet. Also Yugi, "I care. I would like 3 million for just playing card games, thank you." Later on, Yugi and Joey are sat together reminiscing about how they became friends. Yugi mentions that Joey and Tristan weren't friends at first. They actually bullied him and tried to throw away a piece of the puzzle before Yugi eventually stood up for them when they needed it. Joey tries hard to justify his actions. He shows resentment, but not because of his actions, but specifically for doing it to Yugi. Yugi also doesn't help them because they were his friends at the time, but because it was the right thing to do. The day changes to night and Yugi is queuing up to get on board the boat to Duelist Kingdom, when he hears a commotion which turns out to be Joey trying to sneak his way on board to be there with Yugi. It all eventually calms down when Yugi manages to bend the rules slightly, gifting Joey a star chip, making him an official participant, and this distraction also allows Taya and Tristan to sneak on themselves. Once on the boat, we are now introduced to Yu-Gi-Oh! Girl Boss and Joey's sexual awakening, My Valentine.
Wow!
Joey loses his mind when he lays eyes on My Valentine, but is annoyed because Yugi gets all the attention from her for beating Seto Kaiba and simply tells Joey that he's fashion challenged and deserves to be crushed.
Please, crush me!
After this, Joey's kicking off about not having a good room when Weevil and Rex enter the room. The four have a conversation. Weevil tells Yugi there's new secret rules on the island that require strategy. Rex mentions it's all about strength, and Joey tries to disagree as he learned from Yugi and Grandpa, but gets irate when Rex shrugs it off. Joey then goes on to just trade some cards. Rex then meets Mai as she's kicking off about not having even a shower in her room, and a lady deserves better. She finds out that Rex actually has a luxury room for finishing in the finals, and asks if she can see it. Taya and Tristan are then knocking about, still trying to hide on the boat, and then they see Bakura. Bakura from school?
Bakura? You mean Bakura from school?
Cutting back to Mai and Rex in Rex's room, Mai challenges Rex to a duel. If he wins, she'll spend the night in the room alongside him. But if he loses, he's out. We then see Joey showing off to Yugi the cards he managed to trade for. Baby Dragon, Kunai with Chain, Salamandra, and Sword and Shield. Joey says that he's ready to win every duel now, but Yugi says it'll probably be a lot harder than that, and gives him the Time Wizard. Mai and Rex are then shown shuffling their cards, and then Mai shows off that no matter how she shuffles the deck, she'll know exactly what cards she's got. And Rex says,
Oh, I think I'm in trouble.
Weevil, Yugi and Joey are then on the boat deck, and Weevil asks to see Yugi's super legendary cards, to which Yugi gives them away like an idiot, and Weevil tosses off the boat. Without hesitation, Joey jumps off the boat. He attempts to save the cards, but he can't do it, continuously promising he'll get them until Yugi has to jump in himself and save him from drowning. Both of them are in real danger, but luckily Tristan and Taya throw down flotation devices and pull them back up. Yugi thanks Tristan and Taya for saving them, but Joey goes on to rant about how he's never able to help anyone, and he's just so sorry, and then he tells them a story about his sister. He explains that whilst they've managed to get back in contact, they didn't get to see each other for years as her eyesight issues got so bad it put so much stress on his parents. His father didn't handle it well, and began to abuse them both, so his mother left with Serenity in order to get her the help she needs, but it might be too late, and the only way he can help her is by winning and getting the prize money. Dawn breaks, and the gang look upon the island, which has now come into view, ready for the many challenges which await them. We pick back up with the gang as they're getting off the boat and finally step foot on Duelist Kingdom Island. The gang is still quite hung up on Weevil's antics on the boat, throwing Exodia into the ocean, but they concur that there's nothing they can do about it quite yet, as they have to go to the castle for the introduction to the tournament. As the gang head up, they once again spot Bakura from school. They make it to the top of the staircase, and Pegasus stands on top of the castle, welcoming everyone to the tournament in an upbeat yet ominous manner. He announces the rules of dueling each other around the island until you earn 10 starships. The first 4 duelists to reach the castle will be the finalists. Yugi, Joey, Tristan and Taya make their way into a floral field preparing for the tournament to begin. Joey reiterates being unsure if he's good enough to do it, but he'll never give up. He's in this tournament for his sister, and he'll do everything he can to win the prize money for her operation. Once the fireworks go off to symbolise the official beginning of the tournament, the gang instantly spot Weevil, and it's on sight for them. Yugi challenges him to a duel, but he runs away. The group chase him, but they're unsure as to why he's even running, until they come to a forest-surrounded duel field. Yugi proposes they put all their chips on the line, but Weevil refuses, claiming he's not stupid enough to put both of his star chips on the line for Yugi's one. Yugi agrees that the wager will be 1 star chip each, and the duel gets underway. A crowd begins to form as they wonder who's dueling, when Joey announces that it's Yugi Moto, the man who defeated reigning champion Seto Kaiba, and he's his best friend, Joey Wheeler, and the other two, they're trespassers. The duel is underway when Yugi opens with Feral Imp and Weevil attacks with his Killer Needle. Yugi is stunned when his Feral Imp is destroyed when Weevil announces that because of the field power bonus, his Killer Needle is stronger. These were the rules that were revealed to him earlier by Pegasus for winning the regional championships. Yugi laughs in response, much to Weevil's surprise, as he summons Mammoth Graveyard, announcing that he understands the field power bonus as well, and uses his Wasteland to buff his monster, destroying the Killer Needle. The duel continues going back and forth until Weevil puts up a wall in the form of his Cocoon of Evolution. Just as he does this, we once again get an appearance from Mai Valentine. She appears claiming that Yugi could never defeat regional champion Weevil Underwood. Taya's furious that Mai would ever insult her Yugi. Joey and Tristan agree that they are concerned as well, as Weevil is clearly incredibly talented. The gang continue to cheer on Yugi as Mai berates them, asking if they use their free time to work on this pointless cheerleading, but Taya says that Mai wouldn't understand, as she's never even had friends who would want to cheer her on. Eventually, Weevil brings out his Great Moth. It shocks and concerns Yugi, but he has a plan. The duel ends when Yugi summons a Dark Magician. In Weevil's turn, he attempts to attack, but Yugi activates Mirror Force. He destroys the Great Moth and attacks Weevil directly for game. Weevil is furious, but he walks off, not eliminated. Yugi now celebrates with 2 starships. Following the duel, we get a flashback to Serenity and Joey on a trip to the beach as kids, as Joey promised Serenity they'd go, showing how even from such an early age he would do anything for his sister. He promises her that even if their parents do go through divorce and they must part ways, he will one day take her back to this exact beach. Joey then looks out on all the duelists preparing for battle when Joey says he's ready for anyone. The group kinda doubt him, but Joey shows that he knows what he's doing, even checking the fields that would benefit his monsters the most. The camera pans as we hear Mai's voice after eliminating another nobody from the tournament and claiming she's psychic. She quickly goes over to Yugi saying she's in the mood for a duel, but her attention changes, challenging Joey to a duel. She claims she overheard Yugi being the one to give Joey his only star chip, and that he's probably the easiest win on the island. Joey accepts the challenge, much to the shock of all of his friends. He says that he was trained by Grandpa and he's ready for the challenge with a duel between Joey and Mai getting underway. She says that she'll only be wagering 1 star chip, as that's all that Joey has, much like Weevil to Yugi. Before they start, Joey questions the reason Mai duels, and she replies with a list of material things, annoying Joey even more as he challenges her motives, claiming he and the others duel for people they love, and that will overpower Mai. Joey starts off with Masaki, but Mai suddenly starts choosing her cards without even looking. Joey is confused but shakes it off. Mai summons her first Harpy Lady, destroying Joey's Masaki and getting an early advantage, ending her turn by playing a face down, again without looking. Joey makes continuous mistakes, proving he isn't up to par with the other top duelists. The duel continues back and forth until Joey works out that Mai isn't psychic. Whilst he's closing his eyes to strategize, he smells out her trick, realising she soaked her cards in different perfumes. He starts to doubt if he has a chance, seeing a flashback of the one scene I completely misinterpreted in the last episode where Serenity is saying she doesn't want him to forget her face because they haven't seen each other in a while, not because Joey is going blind, which reminds him why he's dueling and he doesn't give up. After working out her devious plan, he gets fired up, eventually using the combination of Time Wizard and Baby Dragon to summon Thousand Dragon, destroying one of Mai's Harpies and eliminating the rest of her life points. As Mai gives Joey his star chip, she tells him she got Joey all wrong. There's definitely a duelist in there, he just needs to polish his skills. Joey tells Mai that she's great at what she does, but while she only duels for herself, she'll never reach a top brass. She laughs and leaves as the group celebrate. Later that day, the gang are searching for food as they were too stupid to bring any with them for a weekend on an island. Joey sniffs out some cooked fish. They show up to the site and Joey and Tristan go to dig in straight away, but Yugi stops them, saying that someone is clearly cooking that for themselves, but they don't care and say they shouldn't have left it unattended, when a harpoon suddenly shot out of the water towards them. The gang jump out of the way when Mako Sonami shows up. They recognise him as the third place duelist in the regional championship. Mako is furious until he discovers that he's talking to Yugi Moto, the only man to ever defeat Seto Kaiba. Mako offers them a meal if Yugi agrees to duel him, with a wager of 2 star chips. During the meal, Mako gives his backstory, explaining how he was out fishing with his father when a brutal storm had hit. His father tied him to the mast of the boat so he couldn't go overboard, but he could only sit and watch as a massive wave hit the boat, taking his father's life in the process. The duel that proceeds is somewhat uneventful. Yugi would tell Mako that he respects his reason for dueling, wanting the prize money to sail the seas to achieve his father's dream as he can no longer can himself. But Yugi tells him that he's dueling for his grandpa and will stop at nothing to make sure he does so. Mako's on top for majority of the duel, using the Ocean Field power bonus to his advantage, but eventually Yugi summons the Summoned Skull, attacking Mako's legendary fisherman, wiping out Mako's remaining life points and putting Yugi on 4 star chips. Mako thanks Yugi for a great duel, and Yugi does the same as the gang leave together looking for their next challenge. We now cut to a young boy in a hat and mask climbing out of the window of a castle before Croquet appears with some food for him, only to realise the boy has escaped. He panics and rushes to tell Pegasus. When telling Pegasus, Pegasus shrugs it off and checks for an update on the tournament, seeing Yugi has 4 star chips and 2 wins. He tells Croquet that if he finds Yugi Moto, they'll find the escapee. The gang are now seen walking through the forest when they're talking about Yugi having 4 star chips already, claiming that he'll be able to make the finals in no time and save his grandpa. Joey is disappointed to still only have 2, but they assure him that he'll be able to get enough star chips to qualify and save his sister soon enough. Tristan isn't convinced and winds up Joey, but they ignore it and move on. Suddenly, we hear someone screaming for help and the gang jump to action. They see one of Pegasus' goons dragging a young boy away. Tristan goes on the offense, attempting to take down the guard, but gets taken out himself. They question what's happening, and they're told the kid has no star chips so he's eliminated, but the kid protests that they were stolen, his deck as well. Joey tells the boy that they'll find the person who stole his chips and get them back for him. The kid asks why, but Joey says he'll never leave someone in trouble. He then thinks back to his father's abuse, thinking to himself, I'll always help kids in need, because when I was in trouble, no one was there to help me. All of a sudden, a young boy sneaks up on the group. He challenges Yugi to a duel, and they quickly work out that this was the boy who stole the other boy's star chips. Yugi accepts the duel on the condition that when he wins, he gets the star chips and the deck back that was stolen. The young boy accepts, and the duel begins. The boy takes the first turn. He claims that Yugi will pay for what he did to his big brother, taking off the mask to reveal himself as Mokuba Kaiba. We then see a flashback to a conversation with Mokuba and Kaiba following Kaiba's defeat to Yugi. Kaiba tells Mokuba that he has to go away for a while, and that after he lost to Yugi, it's like he's lost a part of himself. Mokuba reveals that he wants to defeat Yugi to make his brother feel better and come back home, and he hates Yugi for breaking up his family. The duel continues in a simple fashion, Yugi comfortably on top. Mokuba tells Yugi that the Big Five have reached out to Pegasus, trying to take control of Kaiba Corp. They need him to end Seto Kaiba and kidnap Mokuba because the Kaiba by blood must be the official owner of Kaiba Corp, but if they have control of Mokuba, they have control of the company. The gang are in shock upon what's revealed to them, but Yugi didn't realise Mokuba had moved as he attempts to snatch Yugi's star chips. He proclaims that if he can't beat him, he'll just get him disqualified, but Tristan grabs him. Yugi tells Mokuba that Kaiba is just lost. After defeating him, he eradicated the darkness in his soul, and Kaiba is just trying to find himself now. Mokuba asks if that's the case, what is he supposed to do? But Yugi tells him to put his faith in him, and together they will defeat Pegasus. Kaiba Corp will remain in control of Seto, and everyone will be free from Pegasus' dark plans. Following this, we cut to Seto Kaiba in his office, racking his brain as to how he possibly could have lost to Yugi, saying he's run so many tests of possible outcomes and Yugi got the only chance out of 100 of winning, when suddenly, 2 of Pegasus' henchmen break down the door, telling Kaiba he has to come with them as Pegasus would like a few words, pointing guns down at Kaiba. Kaiba throws his chair at them without hesitation, grabbing his briefcase and jumping out the window. The guards look down, claiming there's no way someone could have survived a fall like that. They grab Kaiba's deck and they leave. The gang are then seen running to give back the star chips to the boy Mokuba stole them from, only to see that he and the other eliminated duelists have already been sent on their way. Yugi's furious as Kimo grabs Mokuba again, saying he's going to be taking him back to Pegasus Castle. Yugi tells him to stop and challenges him to a duel. If Yugi loses, he'll leave the island and forfeit the tournament, but if Yugi wins, Mokuba stays with them. Kimo tells Yugi that if he's that desperate to lose the tournament, then he'll meet them at the duel field he faced Mokuba at in 1 hour. Yugi accepts. When the group finally arrive, they see Mokuba still being held against his will by Kimo, and Kimo tells Yugi that his opponent's up there, ready for the duel. Yugi looks up and sees Kaiba? The group is shocked, but Yugi's ready to duel anyway. Kimo tells Yugi that he's not dueling the real Kaiba, but a ghost of him. He tells him that they saw Kaiba lose his life recently, and this is all that's left. The ghost tells Yugi that he took everything from him when he beat him in that duel, and now he's going to get his revenge. Yugi refuses to accept it and calling him a fake. The ghost tells Yugi that when this is over, he'll take all of Yugi's star chips. Yugi accepts, claiming that when he wins, he'll have 8 star chips, and almost be in Pegasus Castle. The duel begins and the ghost opens with the Hitotsumi Giant, stunning Yugi as this is the exact same opening move Kaiba used in their first duel. Yugi summons Dark Magician, destroying the Hitotsumi Giant. We then cut to a scene of the real Kaiba. We're shown how after he jumped out of the window, he did survive. He landed on a ledge, not visible from the window. He enters a secret underground office near Kaiba Corp, avoiding the guards in the area. Kaiba logs into his computer, getting through all of Pegasus' new system protection he put in place. Kaiba is then informed of Mokuba's kidnapping in an attempt of a hostile takeover of Kaiba Corp. Kaiba is furious, but begins to hack into the Duelist Kingdom mainframe. Back in the duel, Yugi can't believe it, as the ghost summons a blue-eyes white dragon. Yugi begins to question what he believes, as it must be Kaiba's deck, but he refuses to believe that Kaiba is gone, but Mokuba starts breaking down, believing his brother is no longer with them. The duel continues until Kaiba starts going through every duel field, attempting to find the one Yugi is dueling at until he finds them, but the duel is still underway. Yugi continues to stall, unable to defeat the blue-eyes white dragons. He slowly whittles down the ghost's life points, but is constantly on the back foot as he summons a second blue eyes and then a third. Yugi is avoiding defeat until suddenly the speakers activate on the duel field and it's revealed to be the real Kaiba. He tells Yugi that he's alive and well, and that he's just dueling a fake and he better destroy him and get his deck back. But he also mentions that to Mokuba to just hang on in there and he will never let anyone ever hurt him. Yugi is angry but relieved, demanding the ghost reveal his identity, which he does by ripping off a skin mask. He claims that he's just a hired gun from Pegasus, calling himself a player eliminator. Pegasus hired him to weed out the weak duelists, and he's really just an old stunt double for actors, but after a bad accident that left him looking like this, he can never get any work. He claims Pegasus pays them such good money he can never turn it down, and now he's going to get his pay rise by taking Yugi out of the tournament. Yugi laughs as he tells him that this duel is over. He fusion summons Gaia the Dragon Champion for the first time and equips it with the Horn of the Unicorn, attacking one of the Blue Eyes White Dragons and winning the duel, and getting Yugi to 8 star chips. We cut back to where Kaiba was communicating with Yugi from. 3 of Pegasus' henchmen break in, but Kaiba is nowhere to be seen. He's furious, but stays calm, saying, "That's 2 escapes now, Croquet. Must I lock you away?" The crew celebrate, but not for long, as when they turn around, Kimo has already taken Mokuba away, not holding up to their end of the deal. The gang search for a little while, but realise Mokuba is probably already back in the castle by now, giving them another reason to get in there and defeat Pegasus. We then cut to Rex and Weevil. Rex is mocking Weevil for only having 1 star chip after losing to Yugi, but Rex has 4. Weevil says he'll do anything to get revenge on Yugi, but he has a plan. He just needs Rex's help for a little while, and Rex agrees. The group are looking for another duel for Joey, but Tristan starts joking with him, saying he needs to find the easiest duelist to have a chance, or even a dueling monkey. The two start going at each other, with Joey eventually laying a punch on Tristan. Tristan storms off, but Yugi tells Taya he's going to go try find him. Taya agrees and stays with Joey. Taya and Joey are walking on, looking for Joey's next opponent, when suddenly Rex and Weevil appear. They tell Joey that they want to duel. The best way to get under Yugi's skin is by getting his best friend off the island. Joey accepts, but before they reveal, they wanted a tag duel. Joey then starts to panic, knowing that Taya is nowhere near the level needed to help him beat both Weevil and Rex, but suddenly, Mai shows up. She says that she'll be Joey's partner, as Taya can't compete without star chips, as she's not even in the tournament. Joey is stunned, but Mai ups the stakes. She says that if they're that desperate, they'll all put every star chip they have on the line. They see Mai already has 8 star chips, so they accept, as the one win will almost get them both into the finals. Joey asks Mai why she came to help him, to which she replies, "Maybe it's about time I started dueling for someone other than myself, right Joey?" He smirks at her, and the duel begins. Joey is clearly the weak link as they both continue to target Joey, dropping his life points lower and lower until Mai protects him with the Mirror Wall trap card. Joey thanks her and she just chuckles to herself. Mai tells Rex that if he's so confident of eliminating Joey, we should up the stakes even more. Maybe he could even put his rarest card on the line. Rex laughs confidently and he agrees, saying that's fine, but when they win, he wants Joey's Time Wizard card. Joey is hesitant but Mai accepts on his behalf. We then cut back to Tristan and Yugi. Tristan is furious at Joey, but Yugi asks Tristan why he's being so hard on Joey. Tristan tells him that he loves Joey like a brother, but if he keeps thinking he's the best duelist around, he's going to get way in over his head and lose the only chance he has to help his sister. Yugi tells Tristan that he may be right, but if Joey doesn't test himself against the best, he'll never improve to the level of the finals, and he needs all the support to get there. Tristan tells Yugi that he's right, but he's never looked at it that way. Yugi smiles and tells Tristan they should go back and find them, because if there's one thing Joey does need, it's their support. Tristan echoes his sentiment, and they both begin to run back to where they last saw Joey and Taya. Back to the duel, we see Weevil and Rex are firmly in control. Weevil has his Great Moth, and Rex has his Serpent Knight Dragon. May has her Harpy's pet baby dragon, and Joey has baby dragon. Mai is panicking and tells Joey he better not get her knocked out of the tournament, but Joey draws, and when he does, he tells Mai that she put her faith in him, so he's about to repay the favour. Joey summons Time Wizard, and it's time for some time magic. They get the good outcome, and Serpent Knight Dragon and Great Moth are both destroyed, as Mai and Joey's cards evolve. Joey now with Thousand Dragon, and Mai with Harpy's Pet Dragon. They both call an attack in unison, and win the duel. Rex and Weevil are stunned. Mai and Joey have defeated them. Mai goes over and takes their star chips, and Rex's Red Eyes Black Dragon. She gives the card to Joey and puts 2 of the star chips in her glove. Mai thanks Joey for getting her to 10 stars, but she passes the remaining 3 to Joey, getting him up to 5 stars. She jokingly tells Joey that he needs the card and the extra chip way more than she does. Joey thanks Mai for helping him, but she stops him, telling him that of all people, she never expected someone like him to help her see that she needed to stop thinking about herself all the time, but Joey just makes her think differently. She goes to leave but turns back and tells Joey she better see him in the finals, as she doesn't want this to be the last time they see each other. Taya celebrates with Joey as Tristan and Yugi arrive. Tristan begins to apologise to Joey, telling him that he's been a bad friend and he's going to be way better from now on, so now it's time to find Joey a duel and help him catch up to Yugi, but Joey flashes his stars, shocking them both. Joey says that he beat both Rex and Weevil, but Tristan and Yugi can't believe it. Taya then chimes in to say it wasn't without the help of Mai. Tristan says that of all people, he can't believe she helped him. Joey tells him not to insult Mai, and Tristan laughs mocking him, asking if little Joey has a crush, and they start to fight again, with everything back to normal between the group. We get started with the gang after Mai and Joey's tag win over Rex and Weevil, sending them packing from the island. Night falls and they walk on to set up camp, where they're suddenly jump scared by Bakura from school, who approaches them. Bakura apologises for making them jump. He claims that he recognised their voices and decided to come say hello. They tell him it's nice to see a friendly face after the day they've had. He laughs and hears Tristan's stomach begin to rumble, and lets them know that he's got more than enough food for them all in his bag if they're hungry. The gang is super excited as Bakura empties his rucksack to show chocolate, sweets, fruit and soda. Joey drools at the thought as they prepare to eat, some grabbing firewood and others dividing up the food fairly. After this, they all sit together, discussing their favourite cards and how the tournament has been going so far. Bakura shows he's earned himself 5 starships so far, but he's been so nervous to get into many duels as he doesn't want to lose. Yugi questions why he's so nervous to duel, as they came here to duel, so that's what it's all about. But Bakura tells him that whenever he goes to duel someone, he feels there's like a voice in the back of his mind telling him that's not what he's here for. The gang are slightly confused, and Taya suggests that Bakura may be feeling some form of anxiety, but Yugi chimes in and says they should duel for fun, no starships on the line. Maybe that will help the way Bakura's feeling, and everyone suggests it's a great idea. Bakura approves and suggests they all put their favourite cards into Yugi's deck. This way it's like they're all dueling together. They all agree and put their cards into Yugi's deck. Flame Swordsman for Joey, Cyber Commander for Tristan, and the Magician of Faith for Taya. Bakura pulls a tree stump out from the bushes and wipes it down. They both put their decks down, ready to duel, but suddenly Bakura shrieks in fear as his Millennium Ring starts to glow. Yugi gasps as he sees it, claiming, "It can't be. Another Millennium item?" Bakura's voice suddenly changes to a more gritty and dark tone as he says yes, and it's here to take us to the Shadow Realm. The scenery changes from a forest to dark, clouded area as far as the eye can see. Bakura tells Yugi that he has something he wants, and he aims to take it. He splits all of their souls from their bodies and chuckles to himself as he goes to grab the Millennium Puzzle. but the Pharaoh comes out of it, stopping him. Bakura is shocked but laughs, claiming, "It's been a long time, Pharaoh. I should have known." The Pharaoh is stunned and demands to know what this man has done with Bakura. He claims Bakura is no longer here, as the Pharaoh would then demand to know who he is. The man embodying Bakura would claim himself to be the evil spirit of the ring. He would say he's a legendary thief and a stealer of souls, and he's been after the Millennium Puzzle for over 5,000 years, and now he finally plans on succeeding. The Pharaoh would then tell Yami Bakura he isn't sure what he means, but he does know he'll do anything to protect Yugi and his friends, and if he's desperate to take the puzzle, he has to win it in a duel. But if the Pharaoh wins, Bakura will give everyone's soul back. And Yami Bakura agrees. The duel begins and the Pharaoh will summon the Cyber Commander, as Tristan himself is summoned, stunned as to why he's there. He panics as Bakura summons his white magical hat, attacking Tristan and sending him to the graveyard. The next shot would show Tristan marching around a literal graveyard, freaking out as he sees a tombstone with his own name on it and begins to run, being chased by the Reaper of Cards. The Pharaoh would ask why Bakura would do all this just for the puzzle, but Yami Bakura laughs and tells the Pharaoh, "You really don't remember anything, do you? Whoever holds all the 7 Millennium items will become powerful beyond belief, and once Yami Bakura has the puzzle, he'll go for everyone else wielding what belongs to him, the Millennium item." The duel continues with the Pharaoh summoning the Flame Swordsman for an attack, followed by the Dark Magician who is stunned. Yugi and Joey stand in the field as the Pharaoh activates Monster Reborn, bringing back Tristan just before he's slashed by the Reaper's scythe. All the monsters on the field representing Yugi, Joey and Tristan try and take a minute and understand what's happening. Yugi tells the other two that sometimes when he's dueling, it's like a strong spirit takes over him from inside the Millennium Puzzle, and he thinks the man dueling may be him. The duel continues until Bakura sets the Man-Eater bug. All 4 of the gang are now on the field. Joey is ready to go to the graveyard for his friends and rushes to attack, but he's barged aside by Tristan, attacking the monster and screaming to the Pharaoh to activate his trap. He tells the Pharaoh he's been there before, and the others don't need to experience it. The duel ends when Yami Bakura activates the Change of Heart spell card, bringing the real Bakura onto the field. Once he appears, the Pharaoh will use the power of the puzzle to swap the souls back, bringing Yami Bakura onto the field, ready for the Dark Magician to attack, destroying the spirit and winning the duel. Once the duel ends, the crew wake up in their own bodies. Joey and Taya claim they had a crazy dream, recapping the events that had just transpired. But Tristan stays quiet behind them before we hear his inner monologue, claiming that they may think it was a dream, but he remembers what happened when he was sent to the graveyard, and that was all real. But he'll stay quiet for now. After this, they hear a scream in the distance and they quickly rush to see what it's all about. When they arrive, they see Mai has been defeated by a mountain of a man. He introduces himself as Panic, one of Pegasus' player eliminators. Mai claims she was forced into a duel with him, and now she's lost all her star chips. He shoves Mai aside, claiming she was his weakest victim yet. Joey is irate and tries to start a fight, but gets held back. Yugi tells Joey that fighting isn't the answer, and he of all people knows how to handle bullies. Joey and Tristan should know that. Joey and Tristan go quiet, lost for words. Yugi transforms and challenges Panic, and when he wins, he'll get Mai's star chips back. Panic accepts knowing the bonus he'll get from Pegasus, and the duel begins, as Joey picks Mai up off the floor, making sure she's alright. She thanks Joey but questions why Yugi would do this for her. Joey tells her that Yugi is the kindest guy he knows, and he'll do anything for anyone. Mai is shocked, but she hopes Yugi succeeds. Panic takes the first move, but as he does, he tells him that everyone in the castle wants Yugi gone, and he's more than happy to oblige. Clamps are put on Yugi's ankles as fire shoots towards him. Yugi questions what's going on, but Panic tells him that he's not just going to end Yugi's dueling career, he's going to end his life. Panic would use Nightmare's steel cage to stall and flood his field with monsters before using Castle of Dark Illusions and buffing his monsters like Dark Chimera and King of Yami Makai, immediately putting Yugi on the back foot, without a steady shtick such as Yugi not being able to see his monsters because it's so dark. The duel would go back and forth. Yugi would stay on the back foot until saying something along the lines of, "Panic, I may not be able to break through your defences, but I can go around them," as he activates the Swords of Revealing Light and summons Catapult Turtle. Panic would laugh, continuously summoning monsters to build a wall, before Yugi summons Curse of Dragon on his turn and activates Catapult Turtle's effect, dealing 1,000 damage by shooting the dragon into him. Suddenly Panic would begin to, no pun intended, panic. During the duel, Mai would continuously make comments of disbelief, not understanding why Yugi and his friends would be so eager to help her, always being reassured by Joey that they're friends and that's what they do. Mai constantly brushing off Joey's comments regarding them being her friends. Yugi would then tell Panic, "You're not the only one that can harness the power of the darkness, Panic," as he summons Dark Magician, screaming Dark Magic Catapult, and shooting his magician into Panic with the Catapult Turtle, taking his life points away and winning the duel. Panic is furious after the loss and tells Yugi that he may have lost the duel, but he will still take his life. Yugi would simply say, "Too slow," as he mind crushes Panic, getting down from the pedestal and approaching Mai. Mai would be hesitant to take the star chips, but Joey would tell her that if she learned anything from this duel, it's that you can't always keep your defences up, or they'll get between you and the people trying to be your friends, forcing them into her home. Joey and his friends would go to leave, but Mai would call back, telling Yugi that she can't wait to duel him and she hopes it'll be an honourable one. Yugi simply nods in agreement, leaving with the gang. After this, we'll cut back to Pegasus having what I can only describe as a Zoom meeting with the Big Five. He says that whilst Kaiba may have escaped alive, he knows he'll be coming to the island as he would never leave his blue eyes, and especially his brother, so he'll be here soon. The Big Five ask Pegasus if he'd like them to tell the guards to wait for Kaiba to finish the job they started. Pegasus would demand they don't, as he has a plan for the Kaiba brothers, even better than the last. As the crew are camping out, trying to finally get some sleep, a helicopter will fly up beside them, startling and waking them all as Seto Kaiba gets out of a briefcase. Yugi would run up to him, saying hello and handing him back his deck. Kaiba thanks him and is far kinder than previously, still telling Yugi he plans to work alone. Joey would take offence to this, attempting to grab Kaiba by the collar, telling him that he has to get in line if he wants to get to Pegasus, but Kaiba would floor him like Mike Tyson fighting a 3-year-old boy. In response, Joey would challenge him to a duel out of rage. His friends would try stop him, but he goads Kaiba into the duel by mocking him for his loss to Yugi. Kaiba would finally agree, but tells him he has to use his new technology, as it needs testing anyway. It's the same circular disc he used in the original, but it specifies to be a prototype duel disc, and the duel would be a normal Duelist Kingdom rule duel, not a weird Beyblade Pokemon Yu-Gi-Oh mashup battle. The duel would get underway, and Kaiba would wipe the floor with him, just through having a much stronger monsters, until Joey finally gets out his Red Eyes Black Dragon. Kaiba would mock him, saying it's just a wannabe Blue Eyes and it's fitting for Joey as he's just a wannabe duelist. Kaiba would then get out his Blue Eyes, destroying the Red Eyes and destroying Joey in the meantime, who never looked like he had a chance in the first place. Kaiba would laugh at Joey, devastated and on the floor, shamefully picking up all his cards that had fallen onto the floor with him. Yugi would attempt to comfort Joey to no avail. When Kaiba leaves, he wishes Yugi the best when trying to save his grandpa, but he hopes their paths don't cross until everyone is safe, as Kaiba will stop at nothing to save his brother. Following this, we see Joey running from a real Blue Eyes White Dragon, almost crying from fear, begging for help. Suddenly Kaiba would appear, berating Joey, calling him a worthless duelist and that he'll never save his sister, suddenly waking up in tears, realising it was all a nightmare. His friends would ask what's wrong, but he'd shake it off, saying it was nothing. Joey is then more quiet than normal. The team would begin to adventure around the island for their second day. Joey and Bakura would be silent in the back, as Tristan, Taya and Yugi are marching on talking. Yugi would claim today's duelists would be even stronger as they survived the first day. Joey would be obviously scared, shaking in his boots. We'd then zoom out into the background to see that they're all being watched by 3 weird looking guys who laugh, saying, "They'll be perfect, let's go tell the boss." Panning across, we would also see some eyes in the bushes, watching the crew as well, but clearly not with the 3 guys. We'd then follow the 3 guys back to their boss. They'd inform him that they found 3 duelists. One was the boy who beat Seto Kaiba, Yugi Moto, but his 2 friends seem like scared nobodies. One is a fake tough guy in a green jacket, and another silent white-haired British boy. The boss would tell them to grab the 2 dweebs, and they'll deal with Yugi later. We then get the backstory of Bandit Keith from when Pegasus embarrassed him, getting a young boy to defeat him in his place. The gang continue to walk when Yugi says something to Joey who was behind him, but gets no response as they realise both Joey and Bakura are gone. They worry about them and say they should split up to find them. Taya and Tristan go one way and Yugi goes another. Suddenly, we come back to Joey and Bakura waking up in a dark cave. Joey on the floor in the corner, who would scream as he wipes his eyes and sees he's on a pile of skulls, before looking up to see Bakura is waking up on a jewel pedestal. Bakura wonders what's going on as he taps his chest to see his Millennium Ring is missing. Bandit Keith would be on the pedestal on the other side, telling him to put his star chips on the line, as they're about to duel. Bakura would question what if he didn't want to, but Keith says if he or his friend ever want out of here, they'll accept the duel. I'm forcing Bakura to duel because as he was on the boat and he's been on the island, he was obviously supposed to be a competitor, yet never once duelled for star chips, so that's a change I was very keen to make. Keith demands he puts all his star chips on the line, so he does. The duel is relatively short. Bakura will be trying to use his fiend monsters, but they're destroyed one by one until Keith summons his slot machine with 7 completed equipped to it, wiping out Bakura's life points. Bakura will be extremely disheartened, and Joey would be furious. He'd challenge Keith and demand he duel for his and Bakura's star chips back, trying to follow in Yugi's footsteps like he did for Mai. Bandit Keith would actually decline, saying that's enough for one day from him, and usher Bones up to duel Joey and take his star chips. Bones would ask Keith to just duel for him, but Keith would say that he's the boss and to just do what he's told, but don't worry, he's buffed up Bones' deck. Bones would then agree, getting ready to duel Joey. Joey would be furious, but Keith will tell him he's not the one in the position to make demands here, so Joey will begrudgingly agree, putting all his star chips on the line against Bones. Before the duel begins, however, we would cut back to Yugi searching for Joey and Bakura. He'd be shouting out their names but unable to find them. He'd stand still for a minute to think, but as he does this, someone rushed past him and grab his dueling gauntlet, and by proxy, his star chips. Yugi would start chasing the person and eventually catch them as they reach a dead end. He'd demand they give his star chips back, as they take down their hood, revealing themselves just to be a young girl. Yugi would ask who she is and why she stole his star chips. She would tell Yugi her name is Alyssa, and she stole them because she has to. Yugi would tell her that there's nowhere left to run, and if she wants his star chips, she'll have to put hers on the line in the duel. Alyssa would panic but begrudgingly agree, and the duel would get underway. Not long into the duel, Yugi would realise that she's not an experienced duelist, using cards such as Happy Lover and Connell TW's favourite card, Shining Friendship. Yugi would ask her why she's here on the island if she's so inexperienced and hesitant to duel. The girl would tell Yugi that her dad's sick, so she needs the prize money to help him pay for his medication to get better. Suddenly, Yugi is torn. He'd tell her that he has a friend in a very similar situation, but he's dueling for his sister's help, and he needs to find him. So Yugi apologises but wraps up the duel quickly using the Dark Magician. Yugi would approach her as the duel ends, taking all the star chips. He'd tell her that she should have just told him in the first place, as he wants to help her, and he promises he will. He takes the star chips and says that now he has 10, he's one step closer to being able to. Yugi promises he'll win this tournament and get the money for her father, but he needs to find his friend now, because he needs his help as well. She tells Yugi that she trusts him and thanks him for his help. As the duel ends, Taya and Tristan are heard running to Yugi in the distance. Tristan tells Yugi they found Bakura's Millennium Ring on the floor outside some cave, and they think that he must be in there. Yugi nods and says there's no time to waste as they begin to run away. Alyssa shouts thank you to Yugi as they leave. Back with Joey and Bones, the duel begins, and to be honest, this goes almost identical to usual, as I really enjoyed this duel and think it's a good display of Joey showing the skills he's developed over time. The duel begins with Joey's monsters destroying Bones one by one until Bones revives all of his monsters as zombies, also summoning Pumpkin, the King of Ghosts. Joey would be on the back foot, just defending his life points until finally Tristan, Taya and Yugi arrive. They question what's going on here, and Bakura tells them that they were both forced to duel. He points over to the man in the bandana and tells them that that's Bandit Keith. He defeated Bakura and took all his star chips, and now he's coaching Bones for a duel with Joey. Tristan tries to stop the duel, but gets taken out by Keith's goons. Tristan tells them that if they can't end the duel, then Joey's just going to have to beat him. Joey shouts back, telling them he doesn't know if he can. Just look at how Kaiba demolished him. Yugi would shout back, reminding Joey of how he's grown through this tournament. He's beaten My Valentine, Rex Raptor, and even regional champion Weevil Underwood. He's one of the best duelists left in this tournament. Yugi's words inspire Joey and fire him up. He tells Yugi that he's right, and it's about time he proved that to himself. He ends the duel by activating Sword and Shield and summoning the Battle Warrior. He attacks one of Bones' zombies, now with 0 attack points, dealing 1,000 damage to Bones and wiping out the last of his life points. Keith is irritated but just gets up and leaves. Joey tells him that maybe next time he'll have the nerve to duel him by himself. Keith tells Joey that he's seen all he needs to know. If they ever come up against each other, he'll squash Joey like a bug. Joey ignores this and celebrates with his friends. They console Bakura, but Joey and Yugi celebrate now both having 10 star chips and qualifying for the finals. They go to leave, but as they do, a huge rock is pushed in front of the exit, trapping them inside. Outside, Keith beats up all his lackeys. He says that they lost and proves that they're worthless to him, and as he's already qualified, he doesn't need them anymore, leaving them laying as he heads for the castle. The gang are now shown back in the cave. They're all trying to push the rock out the way, but they can't do it, seemingly trapped until Bakura's Millennium Ring starts pulling him in a different direction. Bakura explains that he and Yugi were theorising that it's been directing them to Pegasus Castle because of the Millennium Eye. We then cut back to Pegasus watching them the whole time, and then watching Mokuba in his cell. Mokuba talks to himself, saying his brother will come, as his brother is the only person who ever looked after him, the one who truly raised him. Back with the gang, they seem to have found themselves in a maze, a labyrinth you could say. Bakura begins to run, as his ring pulls him harder until they find a room with a duel field. Yugi would question why there's 4 corners, and Joey would tell him that this is a tag duel field. He saw the same thing when him and Mai defeated Rex and Weevil. Suddenly, we hear some rhyming monkeys who do flips in front of them. They speak in riddles saying that they must face them in a tag duel if they want a chance at leaving here, introducing themselves as the Paradox Brothers. Joey tells Yugi it's fine. Like he said earlier, him and Yugi are 2 of the best duelists on this island now, and Joey's been in a tag duel before, so they can do this. Yugi transforms and agrees to duel, saying he'd be honoured to duel alongside Joey. Yugi tells Joey they must be player eliminators hired by Pegasus, just like Panic and that failed stunt double from before. Joey tells Yugi it's fine, he knows what he's doing in a tag duel. The duel would get underway, with Joey starting, summoning the Flame Swordsman and waiting for Para to make his move. Para would summon Suijin, washing out the Flame Swordsman and dropping their life points to 1400 already. Joey would apologise to Yugi, but Yugi would tell him not to worry. They're far from out of this, summoning the Celtic Guardian and activating the Swords of Revealing Light. The duel continues to go on, but as the turns on swords run down, Para and Dox are able to get out Kazajin and Sunga of the Thunder onto the field. Yugi would summon Dark Magician and Catapult Turtle, using Catapult Turtle's effect to sacrifice Celtic Guardian Dark Magician to deal 1950 life points of damage, leaving the Paradox Brothers with only 50 life points left, but for some reason, they seem unfazed. On Doc's turn, he would attack Catapult Turtle with Sunga of the Thunder to try and win the duel, but Yugi would equip it with a Horny Unicorn to stop the damage being enough to destroy them. Joey would panic at this point. He has no idea what to do as Yugi hard carries the duel, questioning that even if he is one of the best duelists on this island, he's clearly number 2 behind Yugi. The duel would go on until Para summons the Gate Guardian, using all pieces on the field, leaving Joey and Yugi constantly defending. As the duel comes to an end, Yugi would summon the Summoned Skull to defend, but as he does this, Joey's eyes widen with an idea. Gate Guardian would attack Yugi's Summoned Skull, but Joey would activate Waboku, keeping the Summoned Skull alive until his turn. Joey tells Yugi that he hopes it's okay, but he's going to have to take his Summoned Skull. Yugi is baffled as to why, but puts his trust into Joey, telling him to do it. Joey would then summon the Red Eyes Black Dragon and activate Polymerization to fuse the two monsters and summon the Black Skull Dragon. The Paradox Brothers laugh, saying that while his monster may be fierce, it still isn't enough to destroy their Gate Guardian, and Yugi would worry, knowing that they're right. Joey would smirk and look at Yugi, saying, "Don't worry, Yugi. Dueling isn't all about strength, you know. You need a mix of spells and traps as well," jokingly mocking Yugi about a point he and Grandpa had to teach him before the tournament. Yugi would gasp as Joey activates the Grave Robber trap card. He'd take Horn of the Unicorn from Yugi's graveyard and equip it to Black Skull Dragon, attacking the Gate Guardian and destroying it, winning the duel and freeing them from the cave, ready to enter the castle and take part in the finals.
To begin this episode, we pick up where we left off after Joey and Yugi defeated the Paradox Brothers and made their escape to the bottom of the Duelist Kingdom staircase, and then we cut to Seto Kaiba, who has infiltrated the castle and found Mokuba. Mokuba is relieved to see his brother, instantly feeling a level of safety. Kaiba tells Mokuba to stay still, he's going to get him out. Seto begins to pick the lock to the cell holding Mokuba before Pegasus appears, separating Mokuba's soul from his body, telling Seto his quest isn't over quite yet. Pegasus would tell Kaiba that he's been enjoying this power struggle between Yugi and Kaiba, and the last thing he wants is for it to end now. Kaiba would demand Pegasus tell him what he needs to do to save his brother. Pegasus would tell him that he needs to earn his entry to this castle by defeating Yugi in a duel. But if he doesn't, Pegasus will keep Mokuba's soul. Forever. Back with the gang, they stare up at the castle. Teo would begin an inner monologue questioning why sometimes it feels as though there's two forms of Yugi. The shy, loving kind that she's always known, but when he begins a duel, he becomes confident, ruthless even. Teo would look down at Yugi, telling him it really feels like he's close to saving his grandpa now. Does he feel it? Yugi would respond telling Teo, "Well, I saved you, right?" And Teo would smile, claiming she would never forget it. We'd then get a flashback to Teo working in a small restaurant waiting tables. Yugi and Joey would enter and ask why she's working there, and she would hesitate but tell them it's so she can save up enough money to study dance in America. The two would acknowledge that's an admirable reason to be working, and Teo would be encouraged by this. She'd later see a note in her work locker. It's said to be from Yugi and Joey, claiming that they found a private space for her to practice dance, but when she arrives, there's a man waiting. He'd hold Teo up at gunpoint, telling her not to make a noise. Teo would start panicking and crying as the man tells her to start taking off her clothes. But as he does so, Yugi would burst in the door and attempt to attack the man. He'd get thrown off, and then the man would turn his attention back to Teo. But Yugi would transform and tell the man that he's disgusting, and he'll fix him. Yugi would mind crush the man and save Teo. Back at the bottom of the castle steps, Teo would go to ask what happened to Yugi that day. But before Yugi can answer, Joey would tell them to hurry up and come up the stairs. So they do, but as they reach the top, they see Kaiba waiting for them. Kaiba would tell Yugi he has one last challenge. He must face Kaiba in a duel if he wants to get into the castle. But if Kaiba wins, he'll take his star chips. Yugi agrees but tells Kaiba he'll regret getting in his way, and Kaiba echoes his sentiments. The duel begins and Yugi transforms, Teo noticing his change in demeanour once again as they head to the top of the castle. In this time, Keith would show up and notice the commotion, going up to the top of the castle to watch. This duel, like the Joey vs Kaiba duel, would be a standard duel with Kaiba's prototype duel disc. The duel would go similar to the original show, but the ending would come when Kaiba stands behind his Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon calling an attack. Yugi would activate Spellbinding Circle and Kaiba would end his turn. Yugi would then activate Multiply on his Karibo, followed by the 2-pronged attack Trap card, destroying 2 Karibos and Seto's Blue Eyes ultimate. Yugi would follow up by summoning his Dark Magician, but before he calls an attack, Kaiba would back up to the edge and shout to Yugi. Kaiba would tell Yugi that just like he did in his duel against his grandpa, he's turned off the damage limitations. So if Yugi attacks for game, Kaiba will go off flying off the castle. Yugi would kill him. He would tell Yugi that after how his adopted father had treated him, he learnt that playing fair isn't all it's cracked up to be, and as Kaiba only has one person left in his life he truly cares for, this is the perfect time to take that advice. Yugi would hesitate, but Atem would try to call the attack anyway, torn between saving Yugi's grandpa and saving Kaiba. But before the attack can go through, the real Yugi would force a transformation back into his physical body, calling off the attack and dropping to his knees, surrendering the duel. Kaiba would tell Yugi he only needs 5 star chips and he leaves the rest. He would apologise to Yugi saying, "The difference between you and I is that I wouldn't want to live in a world without Mokuba. So I appreciate this. I'm sorry about your grandfather." Leaving as the group is just stunned. Yugi would be on his knees, claiming he's terrified of himself and refuse to duel ever again. But as he does this, Mai Valentine would arrive. She'd ask what happened and Joey would tell her. Mai would offer 5 star chips she had spare, claiming she owes Yugi anyway, but he would refuse to take them. Mai would tell Yugi if he's too proud to take them, then he'll just have to duel her for them. Yugi would ignore her again until she gets irate, calling Yugi a joke among other insults, but Teo would cut her off, saying she'll duel Mai instead. Mai would laugh and accept anyway, and the duel would get underway. This would go exactly the same as the original. Yugi would be inspired by Teo's courage and bravery, realising even if he doesn't use the help of the spirit, he has to try save Alyssa's father and his grandpa. Teo would celebrate her victory, and Mai would hand over the star chips to her. As Mai steps back, Joey would whisper to her, "You really lost to Teo?" in a mocking manner, laughing to himself. All Mai would do in response is show Joey the card in her hand that she could have used to defeat Teo. Joey would be shocked by this, but then smirk, telling Mai, "You really are a good person, Mai." Mai would blush in response and smile, simply thanking Joey and turning away. Teo would then pass the chips to Yugi, telling him it's time to save his grandpa, just like he saved her. Yugi would smile and thank her, saying he'll never be able to repay her, as they run up the stairs to the top of the castle. Finally, the whole group will have entered the castle. They would bump into Bandit Keith and Joey would be furious, trying to swing for him but to no avail. Keith would tell them if Joey's done embarrassing himself, then they should look at the duel field. They would see Kaiba standing face to face with Pegasus, ready for an exhibition duel. The duel would begin, and eventually Pegasus would defeat Kaiba in the same way as the original show, using the powers of Millennium Eye. But the ending comes when Pegasus uses the Dragon Capture Dart to get rid of Kaiba's blue eyes and summons his own Tomb Blue Eyes, wiping out Kaiba's life points. As Kaiba loses his life points, Pegasus would tell him that his journey on this island is over, taking his soul and leaving his body laying, welcoming all to the finals ominously, and leaving again. We'd then cut to a meal between everyone in the castle where Croquet would announce the semi-final brackets, Bandit Keith vs Joey Wheeler and Yugi Moto vs Mai Valentine. They would also be informed that they need one of the 2 entry cards or they're disqualified. Keith and Joey would panic as neither has one, but Yugi gifts the Glory of the King's Hand card to Joey before they all go to bed. As they all sleep, we see Bakura and Tristan knock on Teya's door, explaining that they think Pegasus is a cheat, looking out the window and seeing a telescope from a window pointing right down to the duel field. Assuming this is how he cheats, they go to investigate. Once they get into Pegasus' private chambers, Pegasus finds them, sending them all to what seems to be ancient Egypt, where people duel using stone carvings. Eventually, the 3 of them are spotted and are about to be attacked, when Bakura's Millennium Ring flashes and dispels the illusion. Eventually, they all wake up in their own beds. Teo would again believe it was a dream, but after his previous suspicions, Tristan believes it was all real and there's something wrong with Bakura. During the night, we also see Bandit Keith sneak into Joey's room and steal Joey's Glory of the King's Hand card. The following morning, Yugi is called upon by his friends just as he's ready for his semi-final duel against Mai. Before the duel begins, the Pharaoh would ask Yugi inside of his head if he's ready. Yugi would respond, "I am, but you're taking a back seat from here on." The duel would begin, and Yugi would be on the back foot pretty consistently, with monsters getting destroyed and attacks being halted with trap cards like Mirror Wall. Atem would continuously ask Yugi if he can help, but Yugi would refuse, saying that he doesn't want anything to do with this evil spirit. The Pharaoh, irritated by Yugi's words, would say, "Fine," leaving Yugi to fight his own battle. Yugi would eventually mount a comeback against Mai, using Heavy Storm to destroy her Mirror Wall, and eventually Mirror Force to destroy her Harpies, summoning Gaia the Fierce Knight to attack her directly and win the duel. Mai would take the defeat graciously, telling Yugi that she hopes that either him or Joey leave victorious and take down Pegasus, achieving their goals that they've been fighting so hard for. Yugi would celebrate, winning the duel on his own, with no help from the Pharaoh. I added this because I felt like it's a well-timed place in the series to give Yugi himself some development as a duelist and look less like a joke being carried by the spirit of the Millennium Puzzle through every single duel. The next duel is Keith vs Joey. Before it starts, both men are told to reveal their cards that qualify them to duel in the semi-finals. Keith shows the Glory of the King's Hand card that he stole from Joey, and Joey frantically looks for his, unable to find it. Joey runs away to find it, on a 5-minute time limit. He turns his room upside down in an attempt to find it but fails, sliding to the floor outside, breaking down in tears. But suddenly, Mai shows up. She offers Joey a handkerchief and he takes it, but inside is Mai's Glory of the King's Hand card. Joey is stunned by this but thanks Mai. She tells him that this tournament may have been a bust in terms of winning money, but she gains something more important. A friend for life in Joey. She'll cherish the time they spent together on the island for a long time, and thanks him for showing her what truly matters. She wishes him luck and says that she wants Yugi to save his grandpa, but it's truly Joey she wants to win, planting a kiss on his cheek before telling him to stop crying like a baby and go kick Bandit Keith's butt. Joey is stunned but doesn't have time to stick around, getting up and rushing off shouting "Thank you Mai, I'll never forget this" as he arrives back at the duel field. Keith laughs saying, "Couldn't find it, huh?" Joey would smirk and say, "I've got it right here," revealing the card. Keith is stunned but the duel begins. Keith would continuously cheat throughout the duel, slipping the 7 equip card from under his bracelet into his hand. Pegasus notices but says nothing, intrigued as to how Joey will combat this. Joey would eventually overcome the odds after looking hopeless, using Grave Robber to steal Keith's Metal Morph card after activating Monster Reborn on his Red Eyes Black Dragon to summon the Red Eyes Black Metal Dragon. Joey would attack Keith and win the duel, celebrating in shock of his own accomplishment, but in a rage Bandit Keith would do some parkour inspired by his favourite TV show The Office, leaping up to Pegasus' balcony and holding a gun to his head, after Pegasus mocks him for cheating and still losing. Keith would demand the prize money or he's going to blow Pegasus' brains out. Pegasus would laugh and say, "You dare threaten me on my own island? Not a smart idea, Keith." Pegasus would then hit a button on his chair and dropping the floor below Keith. Keith would plummet into the rocky ocean, all the way to his death. Everyone else in the arena is stunned, Taya nearly vomiting at what she's just seen. Pegasus would simply state, "So, on to the finals." We'd then get to Yugi and Joey staring each other down either side of the duel field. Joey would tell Yugi, "Yug, you're my best friend. You were before this duel and you will be afterwards. But I need you to know I won't be going easy on you." Yugi would reply, "Joey, I wouldn't insult you by giving you any less than my best." We'd then get the hardest musical number, which I forgot existed until I rewatched the show for the rewrite, and it was awesome, so I needed to mention that it still exists. The duel would begin and it would be Joey with the upper hand, always with an answer to whatever Yugi threw at him. Yugi would start questioning what he can do until the Pharaoh appears again. The Pharaoh would tell Yugi, "Yugi, I was wrong for what I did, but this is quickly becoming your hardest duel yet. Let me help you. I would never hurt Joey, and if you didn't allow me to help you, your grandpa could be gone forever." Yugi would sigh and give in. "You're right, but if you pull anything like you did against Kaiba again, I will smash this puzzle back into the pieces I found it in." Atem acknowledges him and takes over, looking at Joey and saying, "Don't get too excited. We're only just getting started," as Atem would summon the Summoned Skull. Joey would counter by summoning the Flame Swordsman and activating the Shield and Sword card, attacking the Summoned Skull and destroying it. Following this, he would activate Monster Reborn and bring back the Summoned Skull to his side of the field, then activate Polymerization and fuse it with the Red Eyes Black Dragon to summon the Red Eyes Black Skull Dragon. Yugi would smirk as his turn starts and tell him it was a good move, but just because the card is in Joey's deck doesn't mean it doesn't still represent the both of them. He says that before the finals started, he spoke to Bakura, knowing he had a card that could help for a moment just like this. Yugi would then activate the Change of Heart spell card, taking the Black Skull Dragon to his side of the field and attacking Joey, winning the duel. Joey would drop his head in silence before starting to laugh. He'd look up at Yugi with tears in his eyes. "Yugi, that was the best duel I've ever been in. Of course I'm heartbroken I couldn't help my sister, but you're the only reason I got this far in the first place. You better beat Pegasus and make this all worth it. I'll be cheering you on." Pegasus would walk away as Croquet announces, "Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of the first ever Duelist Kingdom tournament and the new King of Games, Yugi Moto." The gang would cheer for Yugi as he looks slightly disheartened staring at Joey, but then looking up at Croquet. "Croquet, as the winner, I want the prize money to go to Joey." The group would all gasp as Joey would say, "I can't take this," but Yugi would tell him, "It's like you said, best friends before, best friends now. I was never here for the money. You save your sister, and I'm going to defeat Pegasus and save my grandpa and the Kaiba brothers." The screen would fade before we come back to Yugi speaking to Atem behind the doors to the duel field. "I couldn't have beat Joey if it wasn't for your help," Yugi would say, but Atem would respond, "That may be true, but now we'll defeat Pegasus together." Before the duel begins, Tristan tells Bakura he's going to go look for where Pegasus is hiding Mokuba's body. Eventually he does find it, managing to knock out the man guarding the cell, and getting Mokuba out, but the exits all begin to shut as he realises that they're onto him. The duel between Yugi and Pegasus will go the same way as the original, as I think it's brilliantly written, if not too long. Partway through the duel, Bakura would overhear the phone call Croquet receives about Mokuba and Tristan. Bakura would rush off, claiming he's going to go find Tristan. Between the duel, we would constantly cut back and forth between the guys trying to save Mokuba and Yugi vs Pegasus. During the duel, Pegasus would continue to back Yugi into a corner using the powers of the Millennium Eye. Bakura would show up to save Tristan, turning his cards to life with the power of the Millennium Ring, helping Tristan escape with Mokuba until they see a light shining through a door. Tristan storms up only to almost fall off the edge of the castle, but Bakura saves him. When the boys are cornered, Bakura would summon a real man-eater bug, attacking the guards and sending them to the Shadow Realm. Tristan would gasp and tell Bakura, "You sent me there before. I knew it was real. How could you do this?" Bakura would tell Tristan to stop his pathetic whining. He's doing him a favour. Tristan would knock Bakura out in an attempt to stop him causing any more harm. Looking down at him, Tristan would rip the Millennium Ring off of his neck, throwing it like a frisbee into the woods. Following this, the duel will go on to its end, with Yugi destroying Relinquished, using the power of the Magician of Black Chaos and the power of Friendship blocking Pegasus from reading his mind, winning him the duel and defeating Pegasus. Tristan would return with the unconscious bodies of Mokuba and Bakura just as Yugi wins. They'd all celebrate together, walking out the front gates as they see Kaiba standing in front of them. Mokuba would rush him for a hug, their souls back together. Bakura would tell them that his bag is still in his room and he has to go back for it. Once he gets there, he would see the Millennium Ring somehow sat on the bed. Bakura would be shocked but put it back on and transform. Yami Bakura would simply say, "You will never escape me, Bakura." Suddenly, up in Pegasus' quarters, we see him crying to a painting of Celia. When Yami Bakura enters, he would tell Pegasus, "I would have just challenged you to a duel for your Millennium Eye, but you would just read my mind, wouldn't you, Pegasus?" Pegasus would jump back. "I've already lost my dream of Celia returning to me. What more could you do to make it worse?" Pegasus would ask as Bakura simply tells him, "Don't worry, you can join her now," approaching Pegasus and stabbing him with a dagger, taking his life. Bakura would kneel down above him, gouging the Millennium Eye from his head with his bare hands. Bakura would laugh. "2 down, 5 to go," he would say, looking around for any witnesses. "Good. I love when a plan comes together." Bakura would place a Karibo card on the cold body of Pegasus, walking away smiling and simply saying, "Oh Yugi, what have you done?" As the screen fades to black and Duelist Kingdom comes to an end.